Welcome to the Hindu Daily. Our mission is to take a stack of critical issues, from climate justice and national security to global economics, and give you the key insights that connect the dots.
We're diving straight into the editorial section today.
We are, starting with a topic that is, I think, really foundational to social health and equity: the recognition of the childcare worker.
It's such an essential conversation. So much of our economy and, our social stability, it rests on this work that is just systematically undervalued.
Yeah.
And it's mostly done by women.
Absolutely. And that global conversation, it got a huge boost on July 24th, 2023.
Right. That was when the UN General Assembly adopted a new resolution.
Exactly. Establishing October 29 as the International Day of Care and Support. And the reason for it is it's pretty stark. It's about acknowledging that women and adolescent girls bear this disproportionate, undervalued, and largely invisible share of the work.
And, it's important for you to realize this work wasn't always so invisible in India. If you look back, you had pioneers like Tarabai Modak and Jujubai Bhateka.
Way back, right?
Way back, late 19th, early 20th centuries.
Yeah.
They were championing these ideas. But then the focus sort of waned after independence until we get to that landmark 1972 report from Meena Swaminathan's group.
And what did that report do?
It completely transformed things. It wasn't just about services. It pushed the whole issue under a clear social justice agenda.
And that agenda eventually took the form of one of the world's largest programs.
The Integrated Child Development Services Scheme, ICDS.
Launched in 1975, the scale is it's monumental. We're talking 1.4 million Anganwadi centers.
Served by 2.4 million workers and helpers, reaching 23 million children.
And the future projection is even more stunning. The sources say that to meet the needs of around 60 million children by 2030, we'll need to almost double the number of centers and workers.
And yet, despite this vital service, these workers are so consistently undervalued.
How so?
The core problem is that they're seen as carers, just performing basic tasks, not as the skilled professionals they actually are.
And this translates directly into their pay, I assume. What are they actually earning?
Shockingly little for that level of responsibility. We're talking maybe 8,000 to 15,000 rupees a month.
Which is barely on par with unskilled labor.
Exactly. And on top of that, they're missing fundamental things like paid leave, Social Security, and, any real opportunities for advancement.
And the analysis gets even more complex because the sources link this directly to climate change.
It's a crucial link. Think about it. When extreme weather hits a rural community, men are often forced to migrate for work.
Right.
And that instantly increases the care burden on the women and children who are left behind, who are already the most vulnerable.
The data really confirms that disparity. The Time Use in India 2024 survey showed women spend, 426 minutes a day on unpaid work.
Compared to just 163 minutes for men. And economically, that unpaid work is huge. It contributes something like 15 to 17% of India's GDP.
And there are serious health implications, too.
A very clear link. A mother's lack of time for care is directly connected to child undernutrition. We're still seeing child stunting levels over 35%. The impact is truly systemic.
So the path forward has to start with recognition. I saw a mention of the India Childcare Champion Awards.
Yes, on October 28th, 2025. And they explicitly honored these workers as skilled professionals, as changemakers who break caste and class barriers.
But recognition is one thing. The resources are another.
That's the defining challenge. Right now, public investment is only about 0.4% of GDP. To get universal quality care, we'd have to triple that.
To what, 1 to 1.5%?
Exactly. That's the standard you see in Scandinavian countries. The recognition has to come with that level of financial commitment.
That idea of social investment is a perfect bridge, actually. Let's pivot to health innovations still in the editorial section. We're moving to the global fight against tuberculosis.
And specifically, how technology is redefining the narrative of eradication. The focus here is on affordable indigenous tech.
Right. The revolutionary change is something called point-of-care molecular diagnostics. The example given is TrueNut.
You have to contrast the old reality, waiting weeks for culture results, with the new one.
Which is?
Diagnosing both TB and, crucially, drug resistance in under an hour on a small battery-powered machine that can work anywhere.
The impact in low-resource settings must be huge.
It's impossible to overstate. Look at Nigeria. Integrating TrueNut nearly doubled the identification of rifampicin-resistant TB. That's the most dangerous type.
I also saw they were experimenting with stool-based testing for children.
Which is brilliant. It overcomes that huge challenge of getting sputum samples from kids. It's logistics meeting science.
And this innovation is homegrown. Goa-based Mulbio Diagnostics won the Kochun Prize for it.
Which is a massive global acknowledgement. It proves that affordable, indigenous innovation can have a profound impact on global health equity.
India's own response, the National TB Elimination Program, has been really swift, installing thousands of these units.
And that's essential, because India has about a quarter of the world's TB burden. This public-private partnership model is the only way forward.
So the technology is a game changer, but it's not a silver bullet, is it? We still have to address the underlying inequalities.
Precisely. You have to pair diagnostics with access to treatment, social protection, and crucially, nutrition.
Because malnutrition is a huge factor.
A terrifying one. The sources say malnutrition accounts for about 40% of TB cases in India. So the next frontier isn't molecular, it's social safety nets.
And the need for those safety nets leads us straight to our opinion section. We're looking at how welfare delivery shaped, but didn't solely decide, the 2025 Bihar Assembly elections.
The key insight for you here is that welfare was central, yes, but the story is much more complex than just, simple vote buying.
The Polls Map survey shows the incredible reach of these schemes.
And the numbers are compelling. Over 4/5 of households got Har Ghar Bijli. Nearly 7 in 10 got Har Ghar Nal Ka Jal.
And the big one was the Mukhyamantri Mahila Rojgar Yojana, the 10,000 rupee cash transfer.
Which reached nearly 3 in 5 respondents right before the election.
And that reach gave the NDA a huge political edge because of credit attribution.
Exactly. 7 in 10 beneficiaries credited the state government, the incumbent NDA coalition. They successfully built this perception of being effective.
Let's nail down that advantage. What's the aha moment in the data?
It's the direct link. Beneficiaries of that Mahila Rojgar Yojana voted for the NDA at a rate of 54%.
Compared to?
Only 35% of non-beneficiaries. That's a 19 percentage point gap. It's an exceptionally large and clear association.
But it wasn't just about what they'd already received. Prospective welfare, promises mattered too.
A lot. Tejashi Yadav's promise of one government job per household influenced 36% of respondents. A lot.
It resonated with his core supporters, of course, but it also cut across communities.
Right. It attracted 3 in 10 Dalits. It shows voters were looking beyond just caste lines towards a vision of economic aspiration.
And the JDU responded with its own promise of 1 crore government jobs,
which influenced 6 of every 10 respondents. So voters were clearly weighing both past delivery and future promises.
Which brings us to the most fascinating part of this, what the article calls the welfare paradox.
This is really interesting. Over half the respondents, 53%, felt the schemes were just election-time freebies. And 70% thought the pre-election cash transfers were just plain wrong.
So they were critical of the intent, but they still voted for the parties delivering the benefits. How do you square that?
It comes down to pragmatism, pure rational self-interest. Even among those who called it freebies, a majority, 54%, still voted for the NDA.
And what about the recipients of the cash transfer themselves?
An incredible 69% of them said the timing of the transfer was wrong. They saw the political opportunism, they took the benefit, and then they made a strategic choice. They separate the intent from the utility.
That complexity of decision-making leads us nicely to the science section, and a different kind of complexity, the tricky task of climate attribution.
A crucial field. We've all seen the recent disasters. The Delhi smog with AQI over 400, acidic rain, the Himalayan flash floods like Kedarnath in 2013.
And the challenge is moving beyond just saying global warming is real to linking a specific event to human-induced climate change.
Right, and that's what climate attribution science tries to do. It estimates how the probability or intensity of an event was altered by climate change.
How did they do that? The scientist Raghu Murchigad had a simple explanation.
He did. He said they compared the real world we live in now with a modeled counterfactual world, a world where industrial-era climate change just didn't happen.
And the difference between the two is the human fingerprint.
Exactly, the quantifiable difference.
Now, the sources say the science isn't perfect yet. It's more accurate for some things than others.
Yes, attributing heat waves is much more accurate. The physics are more straightforward. Attributing extreme rain is still trickier because of local variables.
But it's getting better even at a local level.
It is. Acid rain in Visakhapatnam was linked directly to local fossil fuel emissions. Delhi's pollution is traced to vehicles, crop burning, and firecrackers.
But are they making that link between global emissions and local weather more specific?
Absolutely. A Utah State University study found that northern India has seen bigger June rains since the late 1980s, and they connect that directly to greenhouse gases and aerosols.
And this ability to trace emissions from point sources like a factory or non-point sources like cars,
Yeah.
that's the real game changer.
It is. Because if you can trace it, what are the legal and policy implications?
This is where it gets into global justice.
Professor Amit Garg suggests attribution could eventually fix concrete financial responsibility. Developed countries who've been emitting since the 1850s should ideally pay for the losses they've imposed on developing nations.
Especially when you remember India has contributed less than 6% of cumulative CO2 emissions since 1850.
So that raises the big question. If the science can prove it, can you make it stick in a court of law?
That is the legal frontier. The sources mentioned a 2025 paper in Nature that asked exactly that. Will it become possible to sue for climate damage?
It's a terrifying prospect for the fossil fuel industry, and it signals a huge shift in accountability.
Moving from climate modeling to digital security, we turn to text and context, the chilling threat of digital tradecraft in terrorism.
The Red Fort car explosion investigation on November 10 really highlighted how sophisticated modern terror modules are becoming. This one allegedly involved 3 doctors.
And they're using advanced digital tradecraft that is, it's basically spycraft.
It really is. 2 methods they allegedly use stand out as extremely high grade. First, encrypted communication.
They used a Swiss app called Threema.
Right. It requires no phone number, it's end-to-end encrypted, and it stores almost no metadata. You can even run it on a private server, which creates a totally closed network.
In the second tactic, the dead drop email, sounds like it's straight out of a movie.
It is. You communicate using unsent drafts in a shared email account. One person writes a message, saves it as a draft. The other person logs in, reads it, and deletes it.
So the send button is never hit.
Never. So there's no transmission record, no digital footprint for conventional surveillance to pick up.
And when you blend that digital secrecy with physical planning resettlements, stockpiling materials, you see a highly trained module.
Researchers have been warning about this for years. Terror groups are prioritizing these kinds of tools, and it makes traditional surveillance, like phone tapping, much less effective.
And simple fixes like banning an app don't work because they can just use a VPN. So law enforcement needs a whole new architecture.
A complete strategic pivot. You need dedicated digital forensics teams who can do things like server forensics and memory dumping. You need to regulate self-hosted infrastructure, and you have to train officers to look for these dead drop mechanisms.
And the fact that the suspects were allegedly doctors is a huge concern.
Because it shows that modules in professional, educated spaces can wield much greater technical sophistication. They're harder to track.
The need for strategic security brings us to our final topic in the business section, the scramble to close the heavy rare earth gap.
The West has identified its Achilles heel. To reduce reliance on China for the super strong magnets you need for EVs and defense systems, you need a secure supply chain.
And the critical bottleneck isn't all rare earths, it's specifically the heavy rare earth elements, HREEs.
That's right, because elements like dysprosium and terbium are vital. They allow magnets to keep their strength at high temperatures, like inside an EV engine.
And the main U.S. player, MP Materials, barely has any of these in its mine.
Which explains the vulnerability. The West is forecast to still rely on China for 91% of its heavy rare earths by 2030.
And the market reflects that scarcity. The price difference is brutal.
It is. Dysprosium oxide in Rotterdam is $900 a kilo. In China, it's $255, more than triple the price. The CEO of a German magnet company put it plainly.
It's really the heavies, the heavies, the heavies. So we are seeing efforts to build Western supply chains. A German company, VAC, is making deals with miners. Australian companies are expanding refinery capacity.
They are, but these projects face huge challenges. They take years to come online. Processing costs outside China are 5 to 7 times higher.
And there are environmental risks, too.
Big ones. HREEs often come from ionic clays, which require chemical flushing, or from monazite ore, which contains radioactive materials. This all adds enormous costs and regulatory hurdles.
We've covered a lot today, and there are some striking parallels. From the struggle to value a care worker to the global effort to secure essential minerals.
It's fascinating. So often the solution to a huge systemic problem comes down to properly valuing a resource or a person that's been historically ignored, and then being willing to pay the actual cost for that value.
Indeed. The need to recognize an Anganwadi worker as a skilled professional, requiring maybe 1.5% of GDP in investment, really mirrors the complex legal effort required for governments to financially recognize the impact of climate emitters on communities. Responsibility starts with recognition.
And recognition comes with a cost. A provocative thought for you to carry forward.
Thank you for listening. If you want to provide suggestions, please contact on the Twitter handle given in the episode description. As always, we are eager to hear what our listeners want to be informed about. We wish you a great day.